What's up, everybody? Welcome to the first ever episode of Small Talk Season 1 with me, Jyotima. In your early 20s, to have your own startup sounds quite fascinating, but only few people can make this big game happen. And out of those few people, today with us, we have Nishant Sinha, the co-founder of Chalo Hopo Travel Company. He has literally taken the financial graph of the company from ground level to 2.5 crore in a year. That was a big shot. So to know about the startup game, the finance, this man is perfect. So without a further ado, let's dive in. Hello Nishant, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. Quite an introduction.
It's really
you
good to
gave.
have you.
Yes, it was a very difficult introduction to live up to, but I'll try.
No, you deserve every bit of it.
Okay.
All right. So Nishant will definitely dive into the startup or the financial or the strategical thing. But firstly, I really want to know what exactly is Chalo Hopo?
Chalo Hopo is it's a bridge that connects Northeast India to the rest of the world, and there are a lot of ways to do that. But we chose tourism as the way of doing it. So it's tourism, but the idea is to connect, the Northeast with different parts of the world.
All right. So is it because since you're a Northeastern, so was it one of the reasons that you have taken it a core, like a Northeast is anyway beautiful. So what was the reason behind it?
The reason actually is that when I was I'm from Tripura originally, right? And if you know, since you're also from Assam, you would know that even though we are from the states here, our understanding of the region or the people in the neighboring states is also very minimal, or rather like nil.
Absolutely.
So when I went to college in Bangalore when I was 18, that was the first time that I met somebody from Nagaland and somebody from Arunachal, and that was my first exposure to people who were living pretty close to where I am from.
All right.
And then to see that others there in Bangalore also weren't really sort of welcoming, or not everybody was accepting of people from the Northeast, kind of made me a little sad, because when I was in Tripura, I was really happy to be in India and an Indian, and I didn't want to sort of plan to go outside for studies or anything. So when college happened, I figured that there is a discord, and at that point, the thought of somehow connecting these two groups of people, so as to speak, began. And eventually it took the route of, Chalo Hopo forming, but the seed was sown in college, during college.
I just want to know, how did you tackle this dilemma of, whether I should go for a job, I should take up my own startup? So how did you tackle that?
Right. I think I never, look, in India, again, at least in my head, the fact that whether I could do a business or not was pretty clear. I could not, right? It was simple, I am not going to be able to do a business, and there's no point thinking about it. So I didn't go to college thinking I'm going to do any kind of business. It was just college happened, last bench, hoodie, headphones, typical teenage stuff happened. And then the first job that I did, what I'm trying to say is that it's essential to actually do jobs, to actually work for somebody, under somebody, and not in one company, but at least in at least two different settings, for any entrepreneur to be able to understand the work culture and develop professionalism. Some people are brilliant where they drop out of college, or while in college they start businesses, but not everybody is that good. So if you have to mold yourself professionally, because that is the most important thing, you need to start by working where, in a job that you kind of like, right? And then you work your way. So it was like that. I worked in 3 different companies. One was an NGO, one was an advertising agency, and the other was a crowdfunding platform. So I worked in 3 different companies before making the switch. Also, it's important to do a job to realize that I hated it after a point, right? So, I mean, the first job was great. Second, third job, by the time I reached the 4th job, I was like, okay, I cannot do this anymore. So that was the call. Yeah, so that was like the push. So if you don't have annoying boss or somebody like that, then it's difficult to get out and say, okay, how can I make my life a little better?
So when you go for a startup, sometimes you do need okay, I do need a partner to work on it. So how do you get that, feeling like, okay, this is the man. I really want to, start my startup with this guy only. So how do you find it?
I think it's a very important question, and that has been my biggest learning, that to
Absolutely.
find the right people to work with, and making that judgment, and it's crucial. So for us, how it happened was that while I was at my third job in Bombay, in an advertising agency called Foxy Moron, and it was in the 2015, the Cricket World Cup was going on. So I made a very good friend in the agency, and we were working on Castrol. Castrol was the brand promoting the World Cup and one of the sponsors. So with him, I would speak, and he figured that I'm from the Northeast and I'm interested in sort of doing something about the region. And his friend in college, who was in Guwahati, asked him to join a travel business, So it was like his friend asked him that, I'm starting something in the travel space. Why don't you join and help me in the marketing? Because the person who called this John, who's my friend, was not sure that he could take up the marketing aspect of it. And John thought that, okay, he's also into marketing, but he thought that I would be a better addition to the team. So at that point, that's how the connection happened. Like somebody needs somebody for a different skill set.
Absolutely.
So it's crucial. Like if you want to start right now, it's important to not just look at the skill sets, though. It's important to kind of understand the person, the people, and it is like getting into a relationship. Like you marrying somebody,
mutual kind of. Yes,
you
of course.
marrying somebody versus you dating somebody are different things. So you might be having great conversations about starting a business, but when you start the business for real, that relationship is very different from the phase of talking and discussing. So the simple thing that I learned is, before you get a co-founder, or after you get a co-founder, it's important to lay down the professional guidelines, saying that this is my contribution, this is going to be your contribution, and if 5 years down the line, either of us don't deliver on these things, then here are the 4 things that can be done. So that's a step that we kind of miss out, because we think that let's just jump in. But if you jump in, if things take off, and then if you have struggles, then divorce is expensive. So
Okay.
that's how things
All right.
work.
So even if you're going for your own startup, and if there's already numbers of giant in that field, so how do you squeeze in? Like, okay, I want to set up myself here.
Right. Again, coming from a very normal job-going person with no business background speaking, I never wanted to be in a business to build a big company, right? And that is not my forte. Like, let's say I have never aimed to become an Uber or to become the next Google. That was not how I looked at it. And I think the key aspect is to understand that do not do a business, or do not get into the field to become a Sergey Brin or like Mark Zuckerberg. That's not gonna fly. That's what I think. So you should get into starting something of your own without worrying about what the definition of startup is, what a unicorn is. Like, unicorn is a company that hits, I think, $1 billion. I forgot the number, but people who are listening can find that out. So you don't have to worry about becoming a unicorn. You have to just know that, okay, because I'm a certain kind of a person, I am self-driven. I enjoy doing things on my own. I like to take charge of things. And this is the space that I'm interested in. It could be anything. It could be food, it could be travel, it could be anything. You do that. Whether that becomes big in the traditional business model or an innovative business model is something different. So, because maybe a lot of people will not start thinking that, okay, my idea is not new enough, or my idea is not big enough. You're not doing a business to impress somebody else. You're doing a business for yourself and to impact a certain number of people. Those people could be 10, 20, 1 lakh, whatever. But start there. And your first startup or first business may not become the only business that you do, right? Definitely not for me. So, so it's that. It's to be able to say that, get out of the cliches of the startup, the terminologies and the jargon of the startup world, and just do something that you like. Only then you can be successful. You can create your niche and do all of that.
So rather than going to like financial investors, you went for bootstrapping. So why so?
A lot of reasons. I mean, first of all, we usually for getting, like, let's say angel investment, or let's say equity, there are a lot of different kinds of investments. So as I said, because we were not coming from a business model, and I didn't have a background in business studies or anything of that sort. The other founders had a background in economics and statistics and business management, but mine was computer science. So one was we were not sure as to what exactly the business model would be, where somebody would invest their money, and did we need money? So the question is, do you need money to start what you're starting? What do we need? We needed, in the model that we had, we needed a computer, personal computers, we had that. We needed a space to work out of somewhere. So those were the two investments, and we needed people. So the investment that we made was our time. For example, all of us had to quit our jobs, right? So I had to take a decision of shifting from Bombay to Guwahati, giving up a job which was paying me whatever, normal, nothing great, but normal, comfortable salary, and giving up on the salary was the investment. So let's say if I was earning 50,000 a month, then I had to give up on that. So if you equate that, then my investment was 12 into 50 was 6 lakh, then about 7-8 lakhs of my own salary, because when we started working, we didn't take salary, right? So, and you can only do that. That connects me back to the previous point I said, that you can only give up on your salary and work for free for 17, 18 hours a day when what you're doing is something that you like, you're passionate about, and not because you're doing it to impress somebody else or to become famous. Our model of business did not need money, so we didn't go out looking. Eventually, when we sort of reached a stage where we figured, okay, now we want to expand, and we had understood the business better, then we started approaching investors and started looking at pitching to people.
Okay, so since you said you're from computer background, so but the much I know, to go or to build a successful startup, you must have knowledge about stock, about finance, about PR. So how did you gather all this? I mean, it's a big struggle, of course.
Yeah. Do you need all that though? It's not required. I mean, see, somebody who has understanding of finances and stocks and stuff, they'll be good at making investments from their personal income and things like that. Because their business may not be related to the stock market, or so you need to understand that there are experts in every field that you mentioned. There are experts in finance, there are experts in marketing, there are experts in everything. Experts are always there. As an entrepreneur, the only thing that you need to do is, these experts may not have the mindset to take a risk. They are great people. They'll be smarter than you when it comes to their skills, but they prefer the comfort of working under somebody. So it's, to become an entrepreneur, what you need is the mindset. That's all you need. The mindset to say, okay, I want to do this, and I know there are 6 people for all the 6 fields you mentioned, experts who I will find, who I will gather, and I will make them work for me, and they will do it because if I'm able to show them a vision, like a larger picture of why I want them to join me. So no, you don't have to have expertise. I'm very bad at all things financial, right? That's where my other founders came in. And when you said that I have understanding of finance, I was like, I'm learning, I'm working on it. Like, the lockdown gave me the time to understand finance because it's important. But you can learn it on the go.
So has this pandemic changed your strategy towards business?
The pandemic has, as far as, because we were in the tourism industry, and as you know, that's one of the worst hit industries. So In the Northeast, we're not opening anytime soon, apart from Sikkim, they've opened up in October. They're opening up in October. The pandemic has made me realize that tourism is a very risky or a tricky space to be in for multiple reasons. One is that you are making money from things that you do not own, right? People come to a place because of its natural beauty, because of the cultural uniqueness of that place, and primarily these two things, right? Beauty, natural beauty, and culture. As a business owner, you don't own the culture and you don't own the nature, and hence when COVID-19 is making us pull our hair, we don't know what to do. So in the tourism business, the dependency on nature is a lot, and not many companies, when they were working before COVID, or I don't know, once things resume after COVID, they're not doing enough to supplement nature. They're just getting people, taking them to spots, but what are they doing to ensure that, okay, as much as I'm reaping benefits out of it, what am I giving back to this natural space that I'm leveraging, that I'm, kind of digging
So
up?
is it the purpose of your work? Can we term it like it's my purpose of what I'm doing?
So you asked me what has changed. So what has changed is I'm skeptical about tourism. I want to get back into tourism once things open up, but I don't want that to be the only source of income. And neither do I want the people who are involved in tourism, like the locals, homestay owners, guides. Even for them, I don't want this to be the only source of income. So I want to look at tourism as something where you earn a living, but always understand that it has to be a side business. And it could be a very thriving side business, but you have to have something else which helps you survive these kind of situations. So that was my sort of mental, that's what I'm thinking about still.
Okay. So what is that what else, as you mentioned? So what could be that else?
That else, I think there are just too many things in terms of what else could it be. And it depends on where you are staying and being able to identify the problems in your area. For example, when I was here in Agartala right now, I started getting into carpentry. I just started making things for myself, just like cutting things, and I bought like drills and hand saws and stuff, and I started making table lamps and things like that. And then I thought, okay, what if I could start a business where a lot of carpenters are there. When we have to get work done at home, we call a carpenter. That's the traditional model. I was thinking, okay, what if I just have a little niche, a boutique business where I'm gonna sell handmade lamps, right? That is not going to give me lakhs of rupees or whatever, but that's one small thing that I can do. So think about it from a perspective of a local guide who's based in Nagaland, right? When he's not doing tourism, he needs to look at around him what other things, as far as the food processing industry, the agro industry, for example. So many different kinds of fruits grow in Northeast. So it's about saying that as youth groups, if they organize themselves and say, okay, as a youth group, we are going to monetize this fruit and make jams out of it. When you have that plan, there are abundant government schemes, especially for the Northeast, which are going to fund your ideas. Just there are too many of them, especially for people in villages, but they're not aware. And if they are aware, the roadblock is the mindset. The mindset to think that I can create a business. And I think that is the key aspect, to tell everybody that Jyotima, you can start a business, right? Anybody can. Because the way you think about business needs to change. Don't think of Uber, Ola, this and that. Think about smaller things, but don't think also like, you think about your community. Think about the space that you're going to be working in, and somehow to benefit not just you, but a few more people apart from you. So
the mutual, it should go mutual.
Yeah, there should be a sort of wholesome benefit, holistic benefit of where you are working.
Okay, if I ask you, what is the uniqueness you would say about your company? Because there are a lot of travel companies there. So what is the uniqueness of yours?
Our uniqueness is that unlike many tour companies, because tourism is a very low the entry barrier to the tourism is very low. Anybody can start a tourism company tomorrow just by opening a website and saying I organize tours, because it's not regulated, unlike insurance, unlike those kind of businesses. So for us, what we did was that all of the tours that we ran, all of the places that we took people to, 90% of the properties that we put people in, all of those were experienced firsthand by at least one member of the Chalo Hopo team, right? So it started off with the founders going and exploring this. Then after a point, we hired people, but we ensured that even if somebody tells me that there's a gold cup pond available in this village, I'm not going to send somebody there by looking at your itinerary unless I ensure that I or my team members is going there, seeing that place and proof. Hence, it's not very scalable, right? It's not scalable in the sense that if you're going to go and visit places by yourself, then you can only visit a certain number of places. But then the quality of the experience is going to be top notch. And that's how if you look at our reviews on TripAdvisor for the last 3.5 years that we have operated, I was surprised myself that we have 84 reviews, which is a lot of people to be reviewing.
Wow.
And out of 84 reviews,
Great.
we have, I think 83 are 5-star and one is 4-star. So
Amazing.
the surprising aspect is nobody is giving bad reviews. I'm not saying we didn't have trips where it was bad, but then by the time the trip ended, we were honest and we always gave money back. If there was a fault from our side, we have given money back. Like we have given a lot of money back to people, because it's not fair to them to pay for something that I couldn't plan or we couldn't plan. First hand experiences which are seen firsthand, and then customer experience. These two things made us, I think, stand out.
What would be like 5 golden rules from your side for to have a successful startup?
5 golden rules. Number 1, figure out who your business partners are going to be and put a legal document in place before registering the company, right? Understand your individual strengths and work with it. If you don't have a strength, don't worry about it, because that's where your employees and your co-founders come in. But it's important to know what your core strength is. Rule number 3, wow, that's a difficult one. Get into something when you don't have to know about the subject from before. Like we didn't know anything about camping, anything about nothing, like pitching tents, none of that. But go into a field that you are curious about or you're passionate about, right? Not because that sector has money involved. 4th, do a job. Work. I would say work.
That's interesting.
Work in at least 2 companies. It worked for me personally, because you get to see the work environment. Because after you become a boss, you need to know if your boss was an asshole, then you don't want to be that guy. Or if you had a very good
Obviously.
manager, you want to emulate that person. So
Alright.
that's my advice. Work for at least 3 years or 2 years and try to work in different teams or different companies. Crucial. And finally, understand that you will fail. Even if you've done a lot of business 5 years down the line, you can still fail. So if you're not a person who can be ready to take that risk of being ready to fail, then it's not for you. So be prepared to fail and rise again. Bye.
All right. So how do you handle downsides, of like in a startup? So it really, makes you go mentally a little low. So how do you tackle with all these things?
I think it's very important to have a good family support. Like, your parents, your sister, your immediate family support is crucial. So if you have a strong family supporting you in what you do, it's important for the times when business is down and the people who follow you on Instagram or people who you are in touch with for work may not you may not be able to get in touch with them, who otherwise uplift you by saying, oh, how awesome you are, and things like that. So family support is crucial, and I can say friends also, because personally, whenever I've gone through low moments, I've spoken to friends and family. So very crucial to have that cushion, friends and family.
Okay. So one last advice to the aspiring entrepreneurs.
One last advice. Okay. Just start. I mean, if you have thought about starting something, as I said before, don't think of the scale of it. Just think of the fact that you want to do it because as you are a self-driven person, and you are better suited in a role where you are leading versus you working under somebody. So if you are that person, then that's the only thing you need to think about, and then everything else, the business aspect of it, will follow from experts who will help you because they know that you know why you are here to become an entrepreneur.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Nishant, for joining us. And I'm sure this intellectual talk on this business and startup and everything will definitely help everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today.
And yes, good luck with your podcast. I think it's a great initiative, and I wish you all the very best.
Assam Downtown University, Northeast India's most placement-driven university. Admission open for 2020-21 session. For more details, visit www.adtu.in or